Drake Maye, very complimentary of your work with Drake Maye this week, coming off last week's performance against the Chicago Bears and his development. How's he coming along, and where have you seen him improve the most?
Probably the most improvement I've seen is in his feet. The footwork and the timing and the rhythm of the pass game. It's really coming together lately. Really put some really good stuff on tape last week. He had one play in particular where he threw a little in-breaker to Hooper that was as good as it gets, using his eyes and trusting his feet and the rhythm of the pass game. That's definitely an area that he's grown. The other one I would say is just understanding the offense and how to get himself out of trouble. If there's not something, a check or something that can get him out of a bad look, he now has a better understanding of how to take care of those plays.
What was the difference for you guys last week compared to the previous weeks as far as getting the run game going? It was a little bit of everybody. Ramondre Stevenson had one of his better games as of late against Chicago, but it seemed like as far as yards per carry and just overall effectiveness of the run game, it was there last week.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we challenged the offensive line to get those guys moved off the line of scrimmage and handle the down guys. If we could just handle their down guys and get our backs up on the second level, we knew we'd have some success. The biggest thing for us was success on first and second down in the run game. The prior week we had 2nd and 15, 2nd and 13, 2nd and 16, whereas this week it was 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, 2nd and 6, and now you're in good manageable down and distances. So just the early success in the run game was great. Being able to run the ball and just the body blows. There weren't a ton of explosives, but there were a lot of 5-yard plus runs. I think we had 11 total on the day. So hats off to that offensive line for getting those guys moved up front.
You referenced yesterday in your press conference with the media all the pickups in the game, something like 58 of them, teammates picking up other teammates out on the field. So I was reading up on this. I was going to ask you if this is the first year you've done it, but this is something you did in Cleveland. I think David Njoku, if I'm not mistaken, won a truck last year for leading the team in pickups last year. So when did you start doing that, and how did you come up with that?
Really, when I went to Cleveland, it was just something I always believed in, especially from the quarterback position. If you can run down the field and pick up somebody that's on the ground as a quarterback, you're leading the way for everybody else. So we really emphasize it with the quarterbacks. And it's something that we honor that. We always talk about playing for each other as the most important thing. Nothing worse than seeing a guy laying on the ground that just got tackled and then guys walking back to the huddle without helping him up. So it's a culture building thing. The guys have really bought in. I would say there was maybe one game where I was a little disappointed in our efforts to get our guys off the ground. But last week, we challenged those guys to be great teammates, and it really showed up. We had almost 90-some guys run to the football afterwards to get their guys off the ground, and 58 almost doubled our pickup totals from the prior games. So we're playing the game the right way. We're playing it for each other, and it's really, it's more about the culture and what we're trying to get done as an offensive unit.
Which game, if you don't mind sharing, which one were you a little disappointed in?
I think it was our Miami game here at home. We didn't have enough. I think we were just over double digits, which was not good enough. So 58 is the record, and we're going to try to beat that this week.
I don't think the Bears had any last week. You don't have to say it, but just if you're noticing it on the other side, did not notice many. I'm curious, Alex, when you look at how certain teams are assembled, on offense, there are some teams that have guys that are targeted 10, 12 times. Puka Nacua was targeted 14 times last week in the Rams game against the Dolphins. You guys have obviously a different personnel, and the targets are spread all over the place. And I'm interested for quarterbacks, sort of the pros and cons of not having the true number one receiver versus kind of just finding the open guy.
Yeah, I mean it's just a matter of spreading it around, like you said. If we had a dominant guy that was your true number one, that just the Julio Joneses of the world, then you obviously target that guy a lot more. We have guys that are good football players, that get open for us. So it's nothing for us to come out of game with guys like 11 different guys touching the ball and getting throws. So it's kind of just working with what you have, and we had a bunch of really good receivers. So we try to get everybody involved. I'd say right now, if you had one guy that we would say that's probably the guy that we try to scheme up to get the ball to a ton, it's probably Hunter.
Yeah, and I mean, and he's a guy that catches everything you throw to him as well. But as far as the receivers have been this year, and we've talked to you about this group, in our handful of interviews, but is that one that, each week these guys, I assume, must be battling over? Because from the outside, you don't see a huge difference from, say, number 1 to number 4 or 5, and yet playing time each week is probably determined on practice. Is that fair to say, or just what they did the week before? Yeah.
That's really kind of it. Who has the best week of practice, who has the least amount of mistakes. Those guys are going to get the majority of the plays when it comes to Sunday. But again, good, hard-working group. We're getting better in the pass game. I feel like that's definitely an area that we've improved on. Even in practice, you can see it. Our pass game is really starting to shape up.
Alex Van Pelt, Patriots offensive coordinator, part of our coordinator series every Friday here on Jones and Keefe. Alex, Albert Breer reported this week the Patriots ownership has called around the NFL on advice about how to handle a young quarterback. I'm curious if you've heard that report and what your reaction to it is.
Yeah, once again, I don't read anything or see anything that's out there in the press. I'm sure they got a lot invested in the guy, and I have a good feel of how to get him ready, and I think it's showing so far. So, not worried about that at all. I'm here to develop Drake Maye, and that's what I'm going to do.
Well, and Gerard Mayo, as we said, was very complimentary this week. Drake Maye, from my estimation, has developed pretty nicely. So do you think the current coaching staff needs any help handling a young quarterback?
I don't think so, no.
I don't know if I'm sure you saw, Shane Waldron, 9 games and fired as offensive coordinator by the Bears. Luke Getty, 9 games. These were guys that I think interviewed here and obviously were a part of that new changing cycle. But struggles are one thing, but only 9 games to work with somebody. I don't know if you have any thoughts on just such a short leash that we saw already in the NFL this season.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. Is it fair? Probably not. You're putting in your program. Basically, you're developing your program. I'm personal friends with Luke. We coached together in Green Bay, so I was hurt for him. But it's that instant gratification, that's out there right now. So I understand it. There's the demand to win and have success, but at the same time, if you're part of a rebuild or a part of a building, your system and your culture and everything, it takes more than 9 games to get that done.
A Mass Live story came out recently. And I know you're not reading in the press, but this is one you were involved in back in 1993, I think it was. Drew Bledsoe and you were at the Combine in Indy, and for his 21st birthday, you guys were out at a Hooters in Indianapolis.
Yeah,
nice.
We did.
How was that night?
It was normal. What actually happened, it was our last day at the Combine, and we actually got snowed in. There was a snowstorm that hit Indy, so all of our flights were canceled. Yeah, it just so happened to be Drew's birthday, so we went over to the local Hooters and had wings with a bunch of the quarterbacks. I think Gino Toretta was on that trip as well. He sat with us as well. So it was just fun to get together with a bunch of guys that you watched play college ball, just getting to know those guys. And then, fortunate for me, I got to develop a good relationship with Drew when he came to Buffalo and still remain good friends.
We're just discussing the Tyson fight tonight on Netflix. He was must-see TV, 80s and 90s. Any moments from Mike Tyson's career, anything that stands out or anything you have a recollection of with the team or during your playing days, some of those fights and him fighting again tonight?
Yeah. No, I do remember the Buster Douglas fight. I was at a Dapper Dan event that's a sports event banquet in Pittsburgh, and I was waiting to go downstairs and watch that fight. That was the one that I remember. But, geez, there's so many great fights for him. I'll definitely be watching tonight, and I'm definitely pulling for Big Mike.
Okay.
Same.
Join the club on that one.
I know.
That's where we'll be at. Well, Alex Van Pelt, we appreciate the time. We talk to you every few Fridays here on Jones and Keefe. Thanks so much, and best of luck this Sunday.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Alex Van Pelt joining us here on Jones and Keefe, part of our coordinator series.